can make money and you get to keep the winnings, but if you lose money, the employees and the taxpayers, the employees and the stockholders are the ones who get shafted. So again, it's really easy to look at corporations because they're more visible and they're what we actually deal with. And corporations, you can also have some small effect on them through boycotts, which you can't have through government. But to me, the problems with corporatism are a distraction from the real cause of it. I think if you think of a sort of stream coming down a river, if somebody's pouring bucket after bucket of pollutant or blood in the top of the stream, then there's going to be all these problems downstream. And we're always distracted by looking at the problems downstream and saying, well, how are we going to clean this? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to make this whole again? But what we have to do is go to the source where somebody's pouring all this pollutant, and that is the state. The corporate problems are an effect of the monopoly of power and currency and counterfeiting that the state holds. And it's really important not to be distracted by the effects of power and continue to drill down to the actual source of all of this, which is the monopoly of force that the government has.
Well, I tend to agree with you. But, I'd like to give you the floor in the last 20 minutes or so that we've got left, Stefan. I mean, I've got some other questions to get your perspective on this. How do you see this ending? Where do you see this going? Clearly in history, governments filled with the type of miscreants who can only be successful within that artificial system go on a power-mad drinking binge, as you described it, literally drinking blood, in one way or the other, sucking off their fellow humans. They always create a stagnation where the average person just stops producing as their ultimate form of protest towards government. Where do you see this ending? Clearly government is entering the depths of insanity right now.
Well, it's only insanity if you're looking for sustainable income for society as a whole. The people who are currently pillaging the treasury are getting millions and billions and sometimes even trillions of dollars, which they can then live on for 10 generations. So it's only insane for society as a whole. It's entirely sane and rational, evil, but rational in terms of self-interest for the people who are currently controlling the money system and the government. So the way it's going to go, in my opinion, Alex, is that it's either going to get better or it's going to get worse, for sure. And it's not going to get better for everyone, and it's not going to get worse for everyone. So it's a complex question. Again, I want to reiterate to your point about, people, buying subscriptions and so on. It is really important that we support people either directly or indirectly, or become one of those people who are out there talking the truth to power. I think it's really important. So it is up to the actions of individuals. That is exactly, there's no inevitability in history as there is no inevitability in anyone's personal life. It is entirely based upon the choices you make and the commitments that you have. That having been said, I think that what's going to happen is pretty predictable, which is that the dependent classes are going to get the short end of the stick, to say the least, right? So the people who are retiring, the people who are dependent on welfare, the people who are dependent upon the government largesse, just as at the end of the Roman Empire, they get truly shafted. And what happens is the government, Obama and people are going to get on the TV and they're going to say, well, this is a terrible situation. The bankers stole all the money. We as the government, we're just so helpless to do anything about it. And so what we have to do together is we have to get on a war footing with scarcity. So we have to, all buckle down. We all have to share the pain. We're going to have to share accommodations. We're going to have to eat cat food. We're going to have to, not have as much food for our pets. We're going to have to eye our goldfish with tartar sauce. We're going to have to do all of this pulling together. And this artificial war and togetherness is going to is going to be created because of all the scarcity that is coming down the pipe for the people who are dependent upon state power.
I totally agree with you, by the way, and we see how this is premeditated because they've been preparing the green austerity and the rationing and training the younger people that it's really sexy, and so they're getting everyone prepared that it's cool to have austerity. If you go to Whole Foods, literally every time I'm in there every few months, half the magazines are how cool austerity is and how cool it is to lose your house and how bad it is to have money.
Yeah,
so they will also then be sicked on anybody who's been able to not be completely destroyed by this system.
Yeah, the fat will always teach the hungry that starvation is a virtue. That's how they sort of maintain themselves. And some people will fall for this and say, well, we're now in a war against scarcity and we've all got to pull together. But some people will simply run out of patience and there will be the inevitable riots and there will be the inevitable blockades. Up here in Canada, when they tried to reduce some of the farmers' payouts, you know, these subsidies for farming, which are so destructive to the world economy as a whole, and particularly to third world farmers who can't compete with free food dumped on their lands. They tried to cut the subsidies to the farmers. The farmers all took their tractors and drove at 3 miles an hour up and down the highways, you know, basically killing the entire economy. So there is going to be an escalation of resistance over time. There is going to be an escalation of violence. It's too late to prevent that, in my opinion. But what we can do is basically, once the gun comes out of the holster, it's going to be a lot more evident to people when we've been saying for years and years and decades, when we've been saying there's a gun in the room that you don't see. It's not a social contract. It's livestock. You are expendable. You are owned. You are harvested like a crop. It sounds nutty when people see Obama giving handshakes and being charismatic and presentable and wearing a suit and not fatigues. But when the guns come out, as they're going to come out when the dependent classes rise up against this scarcity, when the guns comes out, not only will people see the gun in the room that we've always been talking about, but the fact that we've always been talking about it and now it comes gives us a kind of credibility that can really help.
And by the way, they're already training us that when the gun comes out, it's for Al-Qaeda, but then when we get the internal documents, it's all about us. This whole grid is for all of us. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
Question. What would you rather drink? Acidic water, which burns holes in your body and causes loss of bone mass? Or alkaline water, which promotes high energy and vibrant health? The answer is clear. And if you're drinking acidic water, you're helping cancer cells and bacteria to grow out of control. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using Plasma pH Drops is the best way to alkalize your water and help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy alkaline level. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, or cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or by calling 269-409-1776. Again, 269-409-1776.
Go solar for cheap. Want to use solar power but the price is too high? Now you can build your own solar panels for less than $200 at 123cheapsolar.com. Don't laugh. We've sold over 45,000 solar do-it-yourself kits. Watch the step-by-step videos that even non-handyman types can use. We offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to 123cheapsolar.com or call 800-713-0486. 800-713-0486. Reduce your foreign oil dependency when you go green with 123cheapsolar.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it led back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a silver dollar in a book explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
We're going into very serious times, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. This slow rotting, this marination in this false reality that only big government can create has made us weak. And we don't really learn about our metal until we get tested. The Drudge Report is top linked in red to our story. I was just over visiting drudgereport.com and looking at these stories about hundreds of youth running around, rioting inside of a mall and gunshots outside. And now the news is, and the police are saying it may have been organized on the internet. Oh, so the government needs to censor the web now. Well, how about using social media for flash mobs for liberty and freedom, not for lawlessness? But I was over there looking at those stories that I was going to cover next hour after our guest leaves us. And, you know, dead fish cover 20 miles of Arkansas River. Thousands of birds fall from sky. Connected to government testing, ? And my only issue, as I said earlier, if government's always been doing this over and over again, why isn't government being looked at? Going back to that question from earlier, Stefan, because I really want your insightful view on this. Why does anyone trust or like government when government is the author of almost all major crimes, the only author of giant mass murder in the hundreds of thousands and millions, when every major government is constantly caught testing deadly chemical, biologicals, and radiologicals on populations? Why does the public, through, I guess, some kind of, what's the psychological disorder where people love their abusers?
Well, Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, is it Stockholm Syndrome, or Stockholm by proxy, well, I mean, there's that question as I'm ranting here, but then also, why does government again spin this same type of web every time?
Well, I think it really is the essential question, because the fundamentals of what we're talking about in the freedom movement are so simple. It's so simple. It is like saying stealing is bad, violence is bad, except in self-defense. This is kindergarten morality, right? Don't hit, don't steal, don't punch, and keep your word. Everything we're talking about is so simple. It's not like we're trying to convince pygmies of Einstein's theory of relativity. We're talking about very, very simple things here. And the question I've always struggled with, Alice, is why is it so hard for people to understand these basic things? And I think there's a couple of answers I'll just touch on briefly here. I don't claim to have a monopoly on the answers, but the first is, of course, the Stockholm Syndrome, that the government raises most people. They spend more time with the government than they do with their parents, than they do with their community. And so what happens is they end up loving the government, so to speak. They end up attached to this authority figure that they imprinted upon. It's like you see those ducks in nature shows that imprint upon an orange balloon, and then they just follow that balloon around. It's just an imprinting.
Instead, they've imprinted on the blood-drinking slug.
Well, sure, except they see it as a guardian angel or whatever, right? So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that people don't like to try to reduce power, because then they'll find out that they can't, right? So even Sam Harris, who seems a scientist and a rationalist, is talking for, increased government power in the economy and a world government and so on. And why are they doing that? Because people like to feel like they're having an effect on changing things. And every time you go to the government and say, I think you should have more power, the government says, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, brother. 150%. That's a great idea. And then things change. You want to pass another law. You want to raise a new tax. You want to punish someone else. That all works. So people like getting behind that tank rolling down the hill and pushing it because they feel like they're having some effect. You try and reduce the power of government, you'll realize just how little power you really have in your society.
Very well said. And the social engineers are masters at steering that foaming at the mouth mob that the Founding Fathers warned us about so much. We'll be right back in 60 seconds with our guest. Stay with us.
On air, online, and on demand. We are the GCN Radio Network.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your own family. Now, this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years. The crazy part is, he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties. In fact, barons called his work a dire prophecy. Recently, he created a video, which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple